Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's Knox County Schools at Home science video. My name is Kathleen Miller, and I am a 6th grade science teacher at Halls Middle School. The handout that accompanies this video can be found on the Knox County Schools website under the Student Resources tab. It is in the Week 6 activity packet for the week beginning May 11th. Today's activity is for 6th grade science. If you need a printed copy of this activity, they are going to be given out at the scheduled meal distribution sites this Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 12 p.m. If you have any difficulty understanding the video, here are some suggestions to help you. You can use the settings icon at the bottom of the screen to turn on closed captions if that is available to you. You can also use the settings icon to adjust the playback speed to slow down the video. You might consider watching short clips, then pause, rewind, and watch again. You might also consider asking someone in your home to watch the video with you. Stop frequently and talk to your partner about what you heard and understood. Today, we are asking the essential question, how can human activities affect a manatee population? This is a picture of a manatee on the right-hand side of the slide. You may already be familiar with them, and I will give you more information about them at the start of the lesson. Our question aligns with the Tennessee State Standard, assess the impacts of human activities on the biosphere, including conservation, habitat management, species endangerment, and extinction. Our learning objective for today is to make observations, collect data, make inferences, and draw conclusions as we use a model to investigate events in an ecosystem. We will meet our success criteria when we can use a model to investigate our question and draw conclusions to answer the question that are supported by evidence from our data. I chose this activity because it builds on the last two activities that you may have done with Knox County Schools at Home Science. 2 weeks ago, you looked at the biotic and abiotic factors found in different biomes. Last week, you reviewed how energy flow in an ecosystem can be demonstrated through a food chain or food web. Our activity today investigates how particular changes in an organism's ecosystem can impact the population size of that organism. Manatees are aquatic mammals that live primarily in a marine biome that is known as an estuary. Estuaries are located near or on ocean coastlines and may include waterways and the mouths of rivers that flow into the ocean, as you can see from the picture on the left-hand side of this slide. The food web on the right-hand side shows that manatees are mostly plant eaters that have few natural predators. Manatees used to be quite numerous in Florida, but due to several factors associated with an increased human population, their numbers decreased to the point that they were listed as an endangered species in 1967. In 1991, a survey found only slightly more than 1,000 individuals living in Florida. But recently, as a result of the protections that they have received under the Endangered Species Act, their population has increased to over 6,000 individuals, which has resulted in their reclassification from endangered to threatened in 2017. Some of the reasons for the manatee population changes may be due to the human activities that we are going to investigate in our model today. So let's begin. Look at the first page of your activity handout. This is a pre-lab with information about manatees that will be useful when thinking about actions that can help or harm them. Read the pre-lab, Then use the information to draw 2 pictures at the bottom of the page. You can pause the video right now and then come back to it when you have finished drawing your pictures of a human activity that harms manatees and a human activity that helps them. Today, we will be using the science practice of developing and using models. Scientists often use models to study objects and events. In this activity, you will use a model to observe changes that occur in a population over several generations. The model will allow you to observe changes in a manatee population without actually measuring a real population over an extended time period, which is something that would be very difficult to do. Like most models, your model will show some, but not all aspects of a complex situation. For example, your model will not show the impacts of extreme weather events, predation, or competition for resources with other organisms. We are now going to gather the materials that we need for this lab activity. You can see an example of some of them on this slide of the PowerPoint. The materials are pretty simple items that you probably have somewhere in your house, but feel free to substitute something else if you need to. You will need 2 sheets of notebook paper, 39 index or playing cards, a pair of scissors, and a large bowl. If you don't have notebook paper, any 2 sheets of blank paper will do. And if you don't have index or playing cards, you can make your own cards by cutting sheets of paper up, like you see on the left-hand side of the handout. If you are making your own cards, you will need 39 separate small pieces of paper. Begin by cutting 1 sheet of notebook paper into 10 pieces, like you see in the picture on the left-hand side of the slide. I folded my paper in half hot dog style and then cut it in 2. I guesstimated how much to cut each strip to make 10 pieces. If some of them are wider or thinner, it really doesn't matter. Next, use the list of red and green actions that are listed on the second page of your handout to fill in the slips. 1 action per slip. If you have colored pencils, use red for the red actions and green for the green ones, like you see in the picture on the right-hand side of the slide. If you don't have colored pencils, use 2 different ink colors, or pencil for one type and pen for the other. Fold the slips of paper in half and put them in the large bowl, like you see in this picture on the left-hand side. Now take your other sheet of notebook paper and fold it in half, hot dog or hamburger style. Do not cut this piece of paper in 2. Instead, unfold it and write live manatees at the top of one side and dead manatees at the top of the other side, like you see in the picture on the right or the picture in your handout. If you like, you can even draw a line down through the middle of the paper to separate the 2 sides. We are almost ready to begin. The last step is to count out 25 cards from your stack of 39. Put the remaining cards to the side. We will be using them later in the activity. This was a little bit of work, but we have completed steps 1 to 4, and now we are ready to begin modeling. We will go through steps 5 to 8 together so you understand the directions. Begin by selecting an action slip randomly from the bowl, like you see in the picture. That means don't look at what you are selecting. If the writing on your slip is green, take a card from the stack of 25 and place it on the live manatee side of the notebook paper. If the writing on the slip is red, place the card on the dead manatee side of the notebook paper. I have given you an example of both of these actions in the picture that is on the right-hand side of this slide. Put your action slip back in the bowl and shake the bowl slightly to mix them up. Select another slip and do the same thing all over again. If the writing is green, put another card on the live side. If it is red, put another card on the dead side of your paper. If you got the same slip as the first time, this is okay. You might select the same slips over and over again. This is just like modeling real life, where the same event may occur many times. Keep repeating steps 5 through 8 until you have gone through all 25 cards in your stack. Pause the video here and come back when you've finished all 25 cards. Now you are ready to record your first set of data using the information in step 9. Put the cards that ended up on the dead side of the paper aside. You are finished with them. Count the number of cards that ended up on the live side and record that number in the middle column of your data table for generation 1. This is on the 3rd page of your handout, and you should write it in the same space that you see the green arrow that is in the data table on the screen. Divide the number of live cards now by 2 and count out that many cards from the leftover cards in the original stack. If you end up with a fraction, round up. For example, when I did the activity, I had 13 cards in the live stack after the first round. 13 divided by 2 is 6.5, but you can't have 0.5 of a card. So I'm going to round up to 7 new cards. Add those cards to the ones that were on the live side of your paper and write the new total of cards in the last column of the data table as shown by the green star on the picture on the right-hand side of the slide. And you can see that I gave you these numbers. 13 divided by 2 and then rounded up is 7. 13 and 7 added together makes 20. So I now have 20 cards in my new stack that I am going to use as my first generation population. The new cards that you have added to your stack represent new individuals that were added to the population by reproduction. Repeat steps 5 through 9 2 more times to complete collecting and recording your data. You can pause the video now and come back when you are finished with step 11. You should have finished filling in your data table now. It is time to analyze and interpret your data in order to answer the question, how can human activities affect the manatee population? Let's look at the questions on page 3 and 4 of your handout. Remember that your responses should be in complete sentences and should answer the questions completely. When you are done answering the questions, you might share your answers with a parent or someone else in your home to get their feedback on how you did. Pause the video now between questions if you want additional assistance in writing your responses. Question 1 simply asks you to analyze what happened to the manatee population over 3 generations. Look at your data. Did your population increase, decrease, or maybe even stay the same? In question 2, you will explain how you were able to model the interactions between humans and manatees in this lab. Think about what you did and how this process might answer our essential question. Question 3 is actually asking you to make a claim. Did your results indicate a positive or negative impact on the manatee population? Remember that a claim is a statement that you make about the results that you get from a lab or an observation. And don't forget to provide evidence to support your claim. To answer question 4, You need to see if you can identify and think about any pattern that you may have observed in your data and predict what would happen in the future if that pattern didn't change. And question 5 asks you to think about the impact of red and green actions on the manatee population. Why is it important for humans to take measures to protect endangered species? The post-lab questions are intended to extend your thinking by referring back to other lesson content. And finally, you should reflect on your learning by thinking about what you now know and can do, and what questions you may have after doing this activity. Think back to our learning objective and our success criteria. Did we meet these today? Did we make observations and collect data, make inferences and draw conclusions? What conclusion did we come to? Were we able to support that conclusion with our evidence? If you are interested in learning more about human activities that have a positive impact on manatee populations, I encourage you to check out the PBS Learning Media interactive lesson called Saving Crystal River. You can access it at the link on this slide, or you can go to the Knox County Schools website and go to Student Resources and look for PBS Learning Media as one of the resources that is listed there. When you go to PBS Learning Media, if you search for Saving Crystal River, this interactive lesson should come up. It is fun and engaging, and it aligns with several of the standards that you have covered in science this year. Thanks so much for watching the video today. I hope you enjoyed this activity and will continue to look for more material that is released by the Science Department. Remember that your teachers miss you and are hoping that they will get a chance to see you when school starts again. And in the meantime, please stay safe and healthy. Goodbye.